Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode here on Aloha Android. Welcome to the podcast. And today's topic discussion, we're going to be focusing on brand loyalty. One of the most craziest things that I've seen in recent years. Something that's been around for the longest time. So we're going to get into that here in a little bit. I apologize. Every time I go live, I get messages, but as you're coming in, say hi. Would love to know who's in here. Oh, it looks like my son's SIM card might be in the mail today. That's cool. But anyways, we already got an answer on the poll. I was gonna tell you guys there's a poll running right now. So we got one vote on it, and that vote is for Samsung. So Samsung in the lead. I'll be checking the poll periodically just to kind of see where we're sitting at on people's thoughts and decisions and whatnot. For those who joined in on the live, but yeah, right now Samsung in the lead. Way to go, Sammy! Samsung, Samsung for the win. Currently, right now. But what's up? Good morning, everybody. I'm glad to see you guys here. So the reason that I was inspired to do this live stream today, I actually wasn't planning to do a live stream at all, but I decided to go ahead and do it just because I was watching a video on Android Authority, and it was just a review over the OnePlus 15, right? The latest device released recently here in the U.S. It was released in China a bit earlier, and there were a lot of comments really just kind of going on about the guy is a Pixel shill, and he's all about Pixel, yada yada yada. Okay, so I'm like thinking to myself too, like, wow, man, I wonder if people feel that way when I talk about other phones outside of Google Pixels, and do they feel the same way about me? Do they call me a shill behind my back or whatever? And so let's sat up last night. I was talking to my wife, just pondering the whole thing, and I was like, man, like, I want to address this to the community. I want to talk about this and everything like that. Because, I mean, everybody has their preference of, like, what type of phone that they like. There are those that rock with OnePlus and feel like OnePlus can do no wrong. There are those that rock with Pixel and feel the same way. Same with iPhone. Same with Samsung. These phones can do no wrong in the eyes of the person who's typing behind the keyboard because, I mean, that's just what they like. And then they have this sense inside of them where they feel like that they have to suit up and ride into the sunset, ready for battle against anybody else who disagrees with them, which is pretty stupid, in my opinion. It's like the dumbest thing ever. So I'm here to kind of just discuss it. I mean, yeah, I am going to do a little bit of a, just a black and white sheet spec comparison, and then we'll just kind of go over all of it as a whole in general and everything and whatnot. Yeah, so if you guys do me a solid, hit the like button, right? And that definitely helps out these live streams and videos that I post and everything. So shout out to everybody who's been liking and commenting on the most recent videos and helping them climb up there. I really appreciate that as well. Yeah, really, a lot of what we do here on YouTube is like a 50-50 thing in a relationship wise. It's like 50% what I put into the video or into the live stream, and then the other half of the work comes from you guys. And that's liking the video, reacting, engaging, and stuff like that. Letting YouTube know, like, hey, you guys like this video or this live stream, so that it shows it to other people that have never seen my channel. And so that's actually pretty cool. Shout out to Shane Craig for the comment hitting me up on Threads. Shane Craig's another content creator that I like to watch, and I was kind of surprised when he found my post on Threads and reacted to it and engaged with it. Also, there was another creator. I forgot. I'm so sorry if I forgot your channel name, but yeah, finding other content creators on other social platforms is actually pretty cool. So shout out to them. I appreciate it, because they don't have to. They don't have to reshare my links to my videos. They don't have to do any of that stuff, and they choose to do it. I guess there's something behind what I do that they like, and so they figured other people could listen to it, whether they agree with me or disagree with me. It's always cool when other content creators support, and the way that we support is, sharing each other's video links and reacting, as a viewer. Which is like one thing that's like, a real big thing here on YouTube that I've always, just kind of wondered about is like, am I making content for people to, to watch, to learn about these devices, or am I making content for other content creators to critique? And is that what's really happening on YouTube today? YouTube has changed quite a bit. It has really changed. What up, Nguyen? What's going on, man? It has changed quite a bit. It's like, you have your fan base, right? Which are people that just like the content that you make. They like the way that you speak and you talk. They like, your mentality, your perception of things. And so they come back because they thoroughly enjoy watching what you have to say. But then like the new people that watch the videos, the new people that discover the videos, are they actual viewers, or are they just other content creators? Because I mean, that's what it seems like. Honestly, it seems like that. That's what content creators on the tech space on YouTube are doing, is just making content for other creators. I mean, I feel that way. But if you're a viewer, like an actual viewer, comment, let me know. Like, hey, I'm just a regular viewer. I'd love to know what the ratio is of views. Like, how many am I getting that's just actual viewers who just have a deep interest in tech, and then there's those that are just content creators that are watching other content creators and getting ideas, right? Because that's one thing that, you can't help, but other creators can inspire you for an idea for a video and whatnot. That's the realization of things, so. But anyways, yeah. So majority of this is really going to kind of be chopped up to the OnePlus 15, the Pixel 10, the iPhone 17 comparison. Samsung Galaxy S25 is in there for a comparative review, kind of like in a way, but at the same time too, because we have the Galaxy S26 coming, and so I know a lot more people are primarily focused on what the S26 is going to bring to the table. But for me, honestly, the S26 is a 2026 device that's going to compare against other 2026 releases. So I'm not too primarily focused on that per se. But anyways, yeah. So I have the specs pulled up for each of the three devices on this screen, which is the OnePlus 15, Pixel 10, and iPhone 17. However, I have it set to just only show the differences between them, right? So we're not going to be seeing like what's identical between them, just what the differences are between them, because there are, there are subtle differences, and there's a reason why I'm going on the specifications. So I'm not, for you guys to know, I'm not looking for a decisive winner between these three devices or between the S25 and these three devices. Not looking for a clear winner. Maybe you guys might, by what you guys look at, and that's totally up to you. But for me, it's really all about just seeing the differences, right? So the OnePlus 15 is the latest device released, and there's a lot of video coverage of the OnePlus 15 device. And let me just say this: the OnePlus 15 is very iPhone-esque looking, but like the older iPhone-esque. I mean, if you look at just the camera area, right? The main two cameras, right? So the wide angle and ultra wide, I'm gonna say, are they're stacked, and they kind of remind me of the iPhone XS or the iPhone 10 kind of look. But then you got that telephoto to the right of it, and then the flash underneath it in a square module casing. And so I mean, yeah, so it kind of like is like taking the old iPhone XS look with the later iPhone 15, 16, 14 look, and just meshing them together. Of course, there's a lot of inspiration from iPhone when you look at the OnePlus 15. I'm not saying that to be an a-hole about it, but let's call a spade a spade. When you look at a OnePlus 15, the first thing that comes to most people's minds is going to be iPhone looking. It even has the action button like an iPhone. I mean, we can't ignore that. You just cannot ignore that. So yeah, latest device release. Pixel 10 still keeping up with their Pixel identity. So you got the camera island. I'll call it now. I'll call it camera visor. It doesn't stretch from edge to edge anymore. Hasn't done that since the Pixel 8, right? The Pixel 9 brought in this camera island, and it's continued on into the Pixel 10. And then you got the iPhone 17, which really shrunk down that camera module space in the upper left corner of the back, down to just a small island, kind of like taking the old iPhone XS style and look and reinventing it is what they did. And this started with the iPhone 16 and is now also in the iPhone 17. So different design languages definitely are noticeable, standout-ish. Someone's got an iPhone 17 and you'll know that. Or you might mistake it for a 16, but nonetheless, you'll know it's an iPhone. Same with the Pixel. OnePlus kind of changed up a little bit because if you look at the OnePlus 13, it had that dinner plate dish style camera module on the back. Now it's switched up for the for the iPhone square camera module. So I guess they figured like, hey, Apple abandoned it. It's been 2 years, so now we're gonna take it. We're gonna use it for ourselves, type of thing. So that's just absolutely crazy. This is not live. Okay, this is not live. Yeah, for sure. We're not live right now. So, this is like what, a replay? I guess you would say. I don't know. Oh, that was funny. Thanks for the morning laugh. No, it's like 7:59 a.m. I went like 19 minutes early than scheduled. Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, so I don't, no one really cares too much about the dimensions in comparison. So let's kind of just go with the display, right? OnePlus 15's got an LTPO AMOLED display, 165 hertz refresh. You got the HDR 10 plus, HDR Vivid, 800 nits, typical with 1800 nits, I guess the peak brightness. That's not the, I guess, not the best in display brightness compared to like the Pixel 10's 3000 nits peak and compared to the iPhone 17's 3000 nits peak also. So, yep. 6.78 inch display size versus 6.3 inches on the Pixel 10 and 6.3 inches on the iPhone 17. Resolution's at 1272 by 2772 at a 19.5 by 9 ratio. 450 pixel per inch on the OnePlus 15. You got 1080 by 2424 pixels, 20 by 9 aspect ratio with 422 pixel per inch density on the Pixel 10. And then 1206 by 2622 pixels at a 19.5 by 9 aspect ratio, 460 pixel per inch density. So the iPhone 17 and the OnePlus obviously having a bit better display than the Pixel 10. According Gorilla Glass Victus 2 on the OnePlus 15. Same on the Pixel 10. And you got the Ceramic Shield 2 on the iPhone 17. As far as differences, Oxygen OS 16 on the OnePlus. You got Android 16 on the Pixel 10. iOS 26 on the iPhone. So, when it comes to storage capacity, you got a 256 12 gig. Then there's a 256 16 gig, and 16 gig I'm talking about RAM, right? So 256 storage, 12 RAM, and then 256 storage, 16 RAM. You get a 512 at 12 gigabytes of RAM, and then a 512 at 16, then a 1 terabyte at 16 gigabytes of RAM, and that's for the OnePlus 15. Just for the Pixel, old 128 with 12 gigs of RAM, or 256 with 12 gigs of RAM for that one. And then for the iPhone, 256, 8 gigabytes of RAM on the base, and then 512, 8 gigabytes of RAM on the upper storage capacity. Yeah, so a little bit weird there. 50 megapixel shooter on the OnePlus 15 for the cameras. 48 megapixel main on the Pixel 10, and 48 megapixel main on the iPhone 17. So then you got a 50 megapixel, looks like a telephoto, so periscope telephoto lens. And then the 50 megapixel for the ultra wide. On the Pixel 10. The 50 megapixel, 50 megapixel, 50 megapixel, 350 megapixel camera sensors. That's on the OnePlus 15. The Pixel 10's got a 48 megapixel main. Then it's got a 10.8 telephoto and a 13 megapixel ultra wide. The iPhone has a 48 megapixel main shooter, and then it's got a 48 megapixel ultra wide, but no telephoto. So there you have it. Why am I reading out all these specs? What is the whole point of all these specs? Well, put it to you like this. There are things that the OnePlus is going to have that totally dominate over the Pixel 10 and the iPhone 17. There are things that the iPhone 17 has that performs better than what the Pixel and what the OnePlus has. And then there's things that the Pixel 10 has feature-wise, utilizes, that is far better than what either two OnePlus 15 or iPhone 17 will ever have. What are those differences? Well, when it comes to power performance on Android, OnePlus 15's got it. Okay. When it comes to a really good ecosystem, iPhone's got it. When it comes to artificial intelligence computing, Pixel has it and has a pretty good ecosystem as well. There's always going to be something that one outdoes the other on, like benchmark scores. Everyone always like hits on that benchmark scores. I could care less about the benchmark scores. You know, the benchmark scores are they just tell you like, if you ran your phone to full capacity, this is how it will perform. But nobody runs their phones at a very, full capacity. This is like with gaming, like, people would do all these little tests. They'll run games like Genshin Impact and they'll run it, for so long to see if the phone heats up. And when the phone heats up, and then they want to complain about the phone heating up. And it's like, well, of course, when you stress test a phone to that degree, it's going to get warm. That's like saying that, the sun is bright. If you got close to the sun, would it burn your fingers if you reached your hand out? Well, of course. But is anyone stupid enough to go out into space, into a suit, and get that close to the sun to get burned? No. So, when you get millions of views, don't forget me. I'm watching. You know what? I don't forget a lot of people that, are sincere and genuine. If you're a sincere, genuine subscriber and, you have dialogue, we could agree on things, we could disagree on things, because I don't expect everybody to agree with me. But, if you're just being for real and not joking around, like, of course, I'll remember you. Like Nian Dang over here, he's been around for a long time, one of my longtime viewers. And so, yeah, I tend to remember people who obviously, show sincere support. And back to the polls we go. We got 4 votes. 4 votes. That means 3 of y'all chose Samsung and 1 chose iPhone as what to go with. So nice. Samsung still in the lead. Pixels with not 1 person on it yet, and OnePlus without 1 person on it yet. So just Samsung and iPhone are in the race right now against each other, and Samsung is winning. So that's pretty interesting. Okay. So one of the biggest things here is what people will noticeably compare these devices. Right off key, right? When you say iPhone, people automatically go for like, hey, $799, 256 gigs base model starting. So they're focused on like, the storage amount that's given at the base pricing, right? This is one of the things why, when people compare the iPhone 17 to the Pixel 10, that's one of the biggest things that they bring up as a way to debate. When you look at the OnePlus, where the OnePlus really kind of just, really piques most people's interest now, is the battery, because it is, using a silicon carbon battery. So it's got 2 battery cells in it, and the battery, capacity is at, 7,300 milliamps. Where, like the Pixel, the Pixel 9a has a 5,100 milliamp. The Pixel 10 Pro XL has a 5,200 milliamp hour battery. Yeah, the OnePlus is really going to do it in the battery, the power department. 7,300. That's pretty huge, right? OnePlus 13 had 6,000 milliamp hour battery, and the OnePlus 15 has a 7,300 milliamp hour battery. Now, why the jump? For those who want to know, why the jump from the 13 to the 15? Where's the OnePlus 14? Well, in China, 14 is an unlucky number, so they won't make a 14th generation OnePlus, even though technically the 15 would be that. So yeah, that's why it's OnePlus 15 and not OnePlus 14. I just thought I would throw that out there for people to know if they didn't know. When you look at, say for instance, the OnePlus, it goes for $999.99. So just add that 1 penny. Well, no, we can't, because the penny has gone away. Rest in peace to the US penny. They're not minting any more pennies. So you might want to hold on to pennies and pass them down from generation to generation to your kids, because coins are collectibles and pennies are going to be collectibles, especially some of the rare ones too, right? Like the 1942 penny or 1941 penny. If you have any of those, you might want to hold on to those. They're going to go up in value because the penny has deceased. So yes, $999.99 is what's the cost of a OnePlus 15, and that is a 512 gigabytes of internal storage and 16 gigabytes of RAM. So that's a pretty nice amount of storage as a base model. So when people are going to be talking about storage wars and say like the iPhone 17 is so dominant because of its 256 base model starting, well, the OnePlus just shattered that. 512 gigs of internal storage starting out. That's what you get on the website, because there is a 256 and 12, but it's unavailable. So unavailable in the US, like, why? We have 3 colorway options: Infinite Black, Sandstorm. That Sandstorm looks pretty nice, but let's just click on the oh wow, that's really nice too. Ultraviolet. That's a nice looking phone. I wouldn't mind having that phone, honestly. Give me the 256 version. I bet you that one's $899. Is it the 512 is $999, then $899 for 256. So I guess if the 256 was available in the US, iPhone would still kind of dominate this, just because the pricing would be $899. And with iPhone, it's $799 for a 256. But you do get 4 more gigs of RAM on the OnePlus over the iPhone that only has 8 gigabytes of RAM. But then again, Apple and iOS and the way that its operating system functions, it can have a low amount of RAM and still function really good, smoothly. That was probably like one of the biggest arguments way back in like 2014 between Android and iOS. It's like, iOS doesn't need a lot of RAM to run smoothly, but Android needs so much RAM to, to run. And that was always the argument. Now that argument's not even talked about anymore. Most people don't really talk about that anymore. They just want to like stack as much RAM as they have inside of it. And like, I've never really understood the reasoning behind stack as much RAM as you can put into it. When people barely even use RAM on their phone. Like if RAM is random access memory, think about it like this. If you have 20 apps on your phone and you want some of them to run in background when you close out the app, but you don't completely force close it, think about it like this. RAM is that little shelf that the app will go into, so it can stay running in background, but not in the foreground of your operating system. And it just literally holds the app and all the info, and when you reopen the app, it brings you right back to the same spot that you were just at without having to reload everything. Okay. If you're gonna want 128 gigs of RAM, there's people who really want that. I mean, I'm not gonna argue against more RAM, right? More RAM means more possibilities, means being able to do more things, obviously. But I don't know. I always find it weird when people want so much RAM, like it's overkill for what they actually use on their phone. But I'm not here to tell people how to use their phone, so that's not my place. Not my place to ever do that. But yeah. So I mean, like the OnePlus is looking pretty nice, honestly. It really is. And you can get like a OnePlus watch too, right? So it's kind of building its own ecosystem. And for $100 less, you get the Pixel 10, 128 gigs of internal storage. So if you compare that to the OnePlus at $899 for 256 base starting out, well, now the Pixel 10 is not really that bad of an offer. Again, against the iPhone 17, yeah, because iPhone 17 you get 256 at $799. Okay, but that's comparing storage. Now, why is storage, a thing to kind of talk about? Well, it's a thing to talk about because apps are getting bigger and bigger. We will always face this problem when it comes to apps that we use. If you were to Google search Facebook and how big of an app it is today on Android versus Facebook back in 2012, you're going to see a huge difference. Then like in 2012, it was like, a little bit like 3 to 5 megabytes in file size, just about. Way back then, or maybe a little higher than that. Maybe let's be real about it, because that would probably be like 2010, 2010 Android. So maybe let's say like in 2012, or let's say 2014. In 2014, Facebook was probably maybe about like, 500 megabytes in size, maybe less than that, maybe like, 256 megabytes in size. Um, Now it's like, it's higher. It's literally higher than that now. It's absolutely crazy at just how big Facebook is. Same with YouTube. Same with no, I won't say it's like, I don't know. I'm like ADHD. Hashtag ADHD problems. If you guys are like feeling the scramble that's going on in my head right now, because while I'm still talking, my brain is still trying to compute what was the size of Facebook in 2014. I don't think it was 500 megabytes in size. It would have to be less than that. But anyways, we're not gonna get hung up on that. Yeah, so that's why storage capacity does matter. That's why when people are just like, oh, okay, they were cool with the Pixel 10 having 128 gigs. When the iPhone 17 released and they were like 256 for the base model, same price as the Pixel 10. Then the storage became the topic discussion. Like, oh my God, you tell me iPhone could do it, but Pixel couldn't do it. Somebody's got to win in some departments and somebody's got to lose. Like this whole fantasy that there's going to be this one phone that can just eradicate all other phones, hands down, that's never going to happen. Brand loyalists who are loyal to a brand need to understand this. Like, I don't know what. Maybe mix it up with your favorite cup of coffee and slam it down. Or, maybe mix it up with your favorite thing and shoot it up. Whatever you do in life to get your fix this in your head. There's not ever going to be one phone that is the best overall. They're all going to have something better than the other, and they're all going to have things that's worse compared to the others. It's the realization. You guys ever heard of that terminology? If devils you call us, better the devil you know. That's kind of like what's happening here. Okay, it is one thing to say like, I really like Google Pixels, and so that's what I buy and I upgrade from and to every year. Okay, that's fine. I'm a Pixel fan. I really like Google Pixels. I'm not stupid though. Not oblivious to the fact that 256 gigabytes of internal storage at $799 with the iPhone 17 is much better than 128. Because if Google came to me and said, hey, we're going to upgrade you for free and give you 256, I'm not going to sit there and say, no, I can't have that. 128 is just fine. I can't do that. Of course, I'm going to say, yeah, here, take my Pixel 10, take it, and give me one that's like 256. Of course I'm going to do that. It makes sense. I want more storage because I'm going to have more things. Like right now, I'm using Google One. I have that. I have the Gemini Pro version, so which incorporates YouTube Premium, and so I'm paying like $31.98 a month for 2 terabytes of cloud storage, Gemini Pro, and YouTube Premium. Pretty good deal. My first month's free, so I haven't paid yet. I start paying in December. But me and my wife are sharing it. Like we created a joint account. This is what I did. We created a joint Google account. So me and her we're not using this Google account for anything. We're not using it for emailing or anything like that. We're just using it so we can have YouTube Music. We share it. I made my own playlist on there. She's made her own playlist on there. When we're driving to work or whatever, we're paired to our car. We can listen to our music. We can watch YouTube videos and movies without ads. I got the Google One, so we have 2 terabytes, which I can share up to 5 Google accounts. So I got 2 of my other Google accounts tied to it. She's got 2 of hers tied to it. And so we can store more photos, more videos backed up to the cloud. So yeah, that's how I'm making 128 gigs work for me. Every photo that I have, every video that I have, if it's something that I want to keep for memories, it's backed up to Google Photos. Anything that I shoot for like content for the channel, it's like wiped, because every video that I've posted to YouTube in the last year is backed up to my external hard drive. Once I'm done editing the video file before uploaded to YouTube is put into the external drive. So my 2 terabyte external drive has a ton of videos in there. I have it for backup for 2 reasons. One, if I ever want to reuse B-roll footage, I can just grab those, chop it up, and use them for B-roll footage. And 2, if anyone claims my videos and says it's their work, I have the raw, actual video file with all the metadata that proves it's mine. So yeah, you have to do that for your content creators. People will steal your shit. They will. No, nothing against them. I know they're trying to just make a quick buck or whatever, but YouTube don't work that way. You really have to put in the work to get monetized if that's your goal. Anyways, we kind of went left field. Hashtag ADHD problems. Anyways, yeah, so I can make 128 work for me. The thing about Pixels that draws me to it is just, the advancements in AI. While other people are kind of, sketched about AI, a little bit leery about it, or maybe they're scared of it, I am not, because even if I was scared of it, the future is pushing towards it. And so I would rather be on the train with it. I don't want to be in front of the train to get run over. I don't want to be behind the train where I'm running to catch up. I definitely don't want to be on top of the train where I fall off. And I definitely don't want to be under the train and get ran over. I want to be in the train of AI, coasting along that track into the future of technology where AI is going to definitely take over a lot of things. It's already starting to take over a lot of things now. So you go to the iPhone 17 and a Magic Chromatic. I love that. All of those colors. Those colors are pretty awesome. I don't know about you guys, but I like colorful phones. I like phones that kind of a little stand out. Nothing too flamboyant and in your face, but definitely, kind of gives it its own, attitude and flair to it, right? So I can deal with that. But anyway, $799 for an iPhone 17, right? 256 internal storage. I mean, that's one of the things that people really just kind of talk about. Of course, you got, that dedicated, camera capacitive button on the side or whatever. That to me really just makes no sense. It's more of a novelty than an actual, need for one. People always tell me, that's one of the things that they like, Apple for is they got that dedicated, button where you can slide your finger across of it to zoom or zoom out, zoom in, and kind of press it to take a shot. And they're like, I can't, you can't do that with your Pixel. Yes, I can. Maybe not the zoom in and the zoom out part. I still have to touch my display and just, do that thing. I would have to do that. But yeah, I would definitely, would have to use the display to zoom in, zoom out. But as far as for a button to take a photo, volume rocker. I always set my volume switch here as my shutter button. So when I'm stabilizing my phone, just before I take the shot, I have I take the photo when I'm exhaling my breath. So that's when my hand is the most steadiest. So it's not wiggly or whatever. And when I snap that volume, when I hit that volume button, push down to snap the photo, boom, I get a photo. That's how I got the photo out there in the Arizona desert. Recently was, took a lot of trial, took a lot of time. I'll tell you right now. And people are like, hey, that photo is pretty good. It took about 100 tries to get that, and playing around with the settings in my camera to get that shot. So it wasn't just like a point and shoot scenario. That one, I took my time to get that one. And that's what a Pixel 10's cameras can do if you actually take your time to take your shot. But so it does pretty good with point and shoot. But if you're really gonna align your shot, you're gonna get a pretty badass photo. I'm just saying. Anyways. So yeah, I could do that with my Pixel. I can have a dedicated camera button. It is what it is on that. Then Apple's got a really good ecosystem. Everything plays well together, right? The Mac computer, the MacBook and iPad, iPhone, Apple Watch, Apple HomePod, all those things, right? A Samsung Galaxy S25, and for $799, is a 128. So, I don't see too many people harping on Samsung for doing 128. Their 256 is $150 more, so it's basically $859 for it. So it undercuts OnePlus's $899 for the 256. And Samsung has its One UI. It's got a lot of things going for it. Obviously, the usage of the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite. You have these web exclusive colors like coral red, which that looks pretty damn spiffy to me. I don't know about you guys, but that looks spiffy to me. And you got like, all these different ones: icy blue, mint, navy, and silver shadow. Then you got, pink gold and coral red and blue black. You can trade in. Samsung sometimes gives you pretty good, you know, sales with a trade in and all that other good stuff. Okay. So the point of all this is that every one of these devices are good by their own right. All these devices have things going for it that's on a more positive side, and then they have things that are frowned upon on the negative side. Okay. But it's always good to try something new. Like I said, I'm a fan of Pixels. I got a bunch of Google Pixels, past to present. But I got other devices that I use that gives me, like, what I call the palette cleanser. Kind of like allows me to see what another brand is doing. So like I have a Samsung Galaxy. I mean, it's not a new Samsung Galaxy. I'm probably not going to upgrade a Samsung Galaxy device for like another year, but I have the S21. And even though it's the S21, even though it only has, was it One UI 7? I think it's still a pretty damn good phone. Matter of fact, I'm working on another video to showcase the S21 and how it's still worth picking up in 2025. That video is coming soon. But I still use it, and I like it. It's a good phone. It's a phone that, if we weren't so hung up on generations of software and, the latest and greatest, if we weren't so hung up from the program wiring that was done by all these companies to say you need this year's model phone. Like, I mean, there are more people today that upgrade annually so they can say that they have the newest phone. I have the newest phone. What phone do you have now? I have the newest Samsung. What phone do you have now? I have the newest Pixel. Like, they're so hung up on it. Like, as if, like, for some reason, when the next phone comes out, your phone is completely obsolete. And that's not even it. If you strip all that bullshit aside just for 10 minutes and evaluate everything, and you'll realize, like, one of the things that my wife told me is like, I really like the Pixel 10. I really, really like this phone. Like everything that it does, and my experience with it has been such a great experience that, I'm like thinking to myself, like, do I really need to cop up another $800 for the Pixel 11 if that's what it's going to cost? And my wife was like, she gave me an idea for a video. Of course, this video is not going to come out for 7 years. If I'm still doing YouTube, I'll have that video for you guys in 7 years. This is going to be like my, my magnus opus. It's going to be the best video I've ever made, because it's going to take me 7 years to make this video for you guys. And that is having a Google Pixel, keeping the Google Pixel without upgrading. And how do I feel about this Google Pixel 7 years from now after 7 major software updates? And of course, each year I'm going to make one video that just kind of like really is dedicated to telling you guys an updated experience. And that's probably going to happen every time the latest new version of Android is released and the Pixel 10 gets that new software. And then I'll be able to tell you guys, like, what do I think about it after using it for like a month after the major software update. But yeah, I really wouldn't have to go and get the Pixel 11 or 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I'll probably be upgrading to like the Pixel 17 when I'm ready to drop this video for you guys. Now, 7 years from now would be that I am 50 years old, because I'm 43 right now. I turned 43 the month that the Pixel 10 was released. I mean, August. Pixel 10, August birthday. I'm an August baby. Well, I'm not a baby anymore. But as I started thinking to myself, and my wife told me that idea, I was like, that's a pretty damn good idea. It's just going to be so crazy if I'm even going to be around on YouTube then. Because I don't know where I'm going to be 7 years from now. I don't know if, like, my channel just all of a sudden drops out of popularity. And, because I don't expect all of you guys to be here every time that I go live or every time that I drop a video. You guys have lives of your own. I know this. And I know that at some point in life, things are going to change in your life, and your focus will be elsewhere. And then, my channel and the things I did on here will be an afterthought because it's not an interest of yours. Not saying that you know it's a bad thing for people to kind of move on and to experience different things in life. You know, I'm not oblivious to that. I don't expect all my subscribers to be here for years to come. I got people that are young, they're like 18, 19. They're going to grow up, they're going to meet a, you know, a beautiful partner for life. They're going to have a child with that partner and build a family and sustain that family by making better financial decisions, you know, more pay, better job career opportunities. So people grow. So I mean, I don't even know if 7 years from now some of you guys are still going to be here, much less with me being 50 years old. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, that's what I said. It's going to be my magnus opus, my grand thing, right? The greatest creation is going to happen with this video that my wife gave me the idea for. So yes, be expecting a 7 years later Pixel 10 video. I know other people are going to do theirs on the Pixel 8 and the Pixel 9 because those get 7 years of support. But, you know, for me, I'm choosing the Pixel 10 to do it on. And so, yeah, I'm not going to be upgrading from the Pixel 10. Like, if I get the Pixel 11, the Pixel 12, I made a deal with my wife. She's going to be the owner of those phones. All she has to do is just let me use it to review it. And then it's hers. My main daily driver phone is going to be the Pixel 10 going forward. My Pixel 9a currently right now is my webcam. This is what I'm using on this live stream as my camera along with my microphone. And yeah, this is how I make it work for me to be able to podcast. I don't have, you know, $300 cameras and stuff like that set up. You know, I use my smartphones. That's my cameras. So that's what my Pixel 9a is going to be. Maybe when I upgrade to the Pixel 10a, the 10a will replace the 9a as a camera or as my main primary camera, and then I can start having dual cameras. I could probably set up another camera here that points at the desk, so I could do live stream unboxings and have, you know, like, you know, both videos on there. I'm gonna test that out eventually. I'm gonna test that out. But yeah, there's like, you know, so much things in the future that's coming along. But you know, ultimately, when it comes down, like going back to the discussion here, you can like the phone that you like. I mean, currently right now, going back to the polls, we have 5 votes, and they're split between the iPhone and the Samsung, but Samsung is still in the lead with 60% of the votes going to Samsung and only 40% going to the iPhone. Pixel has nada, and so is OnePlus. And so here's the thing. When you watch other content creators, yes, other content creators can't claim to be, you know, 100% biased or unbiased. We have our preferences. I've told you guys so many times that I am a fan of Google Pixel. So if I review a phone, you guys know that I'm coming from a place of somebody that likes Pixels. And so since I'm so used to using Google Pixels, that there's probably some aspects of OnePlus that I may not understand why they did that with OnePlus and may critique them from it. But you don't need to go into the comments to defend the OnePlus or the Pixel or the iPhone, Samsung, etc. You don't need to go in there to defend. You know, people can get very malicious about it or whatever. If it doesn't change your perspective on a brand that you like, what are you fighting for? Because you know you're not going to switch over and go with what the creator says that they like. This is not 10 copycats in the boat. I've never been a believer, and that's why I always tell people, buy what you want to buy, like what you want to like, because at the end of the day, the only person who is affected by a purchase of a smartphone is the one who bought it. Myself and all the other, you know, thousands of viewers on YouTube that follow tech. It's not going to affect us one bit. It'll affect you because you spent your money on it. You have to live with it. You have to either deal with it, sell it, recoup some of the money you spent on it, and use that to go for another device that you want to go for, or rock it out until next year when you upgrade, depending if you finance a phone. Because that's the other thing too. Like, people go and they go to war. They talk about like how, you know, these phones prices $799 this, $799 that, yada 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 yada. But like, you know, like a good fucking 80% of people finance their phones. They don't buy it outright. You know, they'll go with the AT&T deal and get it, you know, for like $16 a month. So you're not even really fully paid off your phone. I know this because I've worked I've worked in customer service. You know, it's very rare that you have a person that orders a phone and pays outright for it. They order a phone, then you go through financial options so they don't have to pay everything up front for it. Because these phones these days are freaking expensive. They are hell of expensive. A very top of the line with with like, you know, the most eye-catching gadgetry going on, right? Foldable technology cost as much as it would cost for you to put a down payment on a used vehicle that's like 6 years old. A 6-year-old car, a $1,500 down payment, and monthly payments of like, you know, $350 a month till you pay off the car. So that down payment, you could either get a down payment on a vehicle that you can travel across country with, or you can buy a phone that's a foldable phone. It's like, it's crazy. Most people don't even buy these phones at full price. I didn't get my Pixel 10 at full price. I got it on sale as an upgrade on Google Fi for $449. This is why when people always like bitch to me about like, bro, how could you say it's good? It's only got 128 gigs of storage for $799. I can't feel that way because I didn't spend $799 on it. I spent $449. That's $50 less than my Pixel 9a, which I got that as an upgrade offer from Google Fi for $299. I try to be as realistic as possible. And even though I am biased with Pixels, I try to be fair with my assessments of other brands. But the one thing that no one is going to tell me is that they went ahead and they absolutely paid full price for a phone that I know that they didn't. It's financed. Okay. If you paid full price for it, congratulations. You paid full price for it. If you missed out on any crazy ass deals that they had for financing the phone, well, that's your fault. Because there's nothing wrong with it. I don't know why people even put that out there in the tech space. Like you're shunned because you financed your phone. Jesus, today with the way that things cost, the way food costs, gas costs, rent, how dare people sit there with a straight face and shun other people because they financed their phone? That's ridiculous. And that's the thing. I mean, that's the thing that I kind of harp on quite a bit on YouTube. It's like, why do people care what other people do? Like, what the hell does it matter to them what somebody else does? And this is the highlight of the entire live stream right now, is that it is cool to have dialogue. It's cool to have discussions. It's cool to, you know, debate which phone's good. But when you start getting like in your feelings, when you start getting butthurt because no one's agreeing with you, you got to go shun people and do all that type of stuff. That's just ridiculous. It is. All these phones have something great going for them. And all these phones have things that they could have done better with. I think until people know what it's like to run and operate a business that manufactures smartphones and tablets, I think a lot of us could really just kind of like shut up with our opinions. We don't know what goes on the inside. We read this article about this and we think we're experts. We listen to a podcast from somebody who works at said company and we think that we're their coworker. We're not. And what they say on a podcast, you got to think about it because they don't want corporate espionage and shit like that. They're not even telling you the absolute truth about what goes on behind the scenes in these factories and how they build stuff. Even guys like, what's his name? The founder of the Nothing Phone, Carl Pei. Even Carl Pei is not going to tell you guys 100% of what goes on behind the scenes at Nothing Technology. Because he doesn't want anyone ripping off his ideas or beating him to the punch to the release of something. He's kind of given insight to people on like what the cost is to build a phone, because he did those videos where like he sent the email to MKBHD and said, hey, if you could have your perfect phone, tell me what it is, and we'll theoretically build it for you. And so they got all the specs, like the camera like the camera sensors, display size, features, whatever, right? So they took all that. They built up a phone that was a perfect phone for MKBHD, and it came out to being like over $1,000 to build the phone. And then they got to sell the phone, and they got to recoup some of that cost back, right? So, yeah, if they were to sell that phone to the public, it was like over $1,000 just to build the phone. They're selling the phone for like over $2,000 to recoup costs and to also get a profit. Because nobody goes into business to be broke. Nobody starts up a business and sells products, goods, and services to just come out at zero. Everyone's trying to make money. So, yeah, that's a realization of it. Like, just stop being a brand loyalist to that degree. It's okay if you want to be loyal to a brand. but they're not going to adopt you. They're not going to recognize you for your years of that stuff and send you something cool. Like, they may recognize you and say, "Hey, we'll send you a hat." Maybe they'll go as high as, "Oh yeah, you're getting this year's Samsung Galaxy device or this year's Pixel device." That'll probably be like the most that you get. They're never gonna go and be like, "Dude, you are so cool. We want you as a face of our company, and we're willing to pay you $50,000 a month to just tell people how good Pixels are." Like, they're not ever gonna do that. So let's just stop with those dreams of being the face of anything. Like, no. Like we all like tech. That's the truth. We all like tech. We like tech. We like listening to people talk about it. We like listening to podcasts that discuss it. We like reading about it. And let's go back to a place where it was actually fun to have conversations, where it was fun to discuss things. Not to where people got to be so malicious and evil behind keyboards to talk bad about somebody, calling this person a pixel shun, an iPhone sheep, all this other stuff. Like, it is literally so immature. Anyways, yeah, that is pretty much it for Sunday's podcast. I do appreciate you guys for coming in and hanging out. I got things I got to do today, and we are currently sitting just at 5 votes, 40% for iPhone, 60% for Samsung. So Samsung is the winner. You guys be good out there. Be safe. Have a great weekend, and I will see you guys in the next one.